Okay, so we're going to get this thing together now. So we're going to get the wings on the intake. Now I've already done one side purely to show you what we've done. So I'll show you that in a moment. So first of all, wing alignments. When they are this type of one where it's literally just butting up, what you can get is that situation where you've got two halves of the wing have come together like this. And they haven't laminated perfectly together. So you get a little bit of a step. And you can probably feel it just in there. So the trouble you've got is when you come along and you put this together, it can give you a little bit of a rock, okay? And so you've got a choice. You're either going to get it where it's perfect on the top or it's perfect on the bottom, and you're going to get a gap each way it goes. But the trouble is, it doesn't make any difference because what you need is good wing alignment. So when you look straight down at it from above, it is in perfect alignment. And when it's in perfect alignment, you see we've got a big gap under there. And chances are we've got a bit of a gap at the top somewhere. Okay, so what we need to do is try and mitigate that as much as possible. So you can probably see we have got a little bit of a step just along this edge. It's not so bad to the rear, but it's definitely noticeable at the front. And obviously we've got it on this here, but the trouble you've also got, you could say just sand it here and here, but it's not going to get the trouble or fix the problem you've got over the top and the bottom where the tab is. Now you could remove the tab. There's numerous different ways you can do it. A lot of people I know just take the tab completely off and put it in, but that does give you good strength. Not so much a problem if you're dealing with plastic, because obviously weld action glues are going to weld it together. It'll be a super fine join, no problem. But if you're dealing with resin in the same way, things like that, you can have a few little problems. So what I'm going to do is take the big old sanding block. So we've got this one down in here. So I'll just give it a bit of a clean. Okay, you can actually physically put this on, but you might notice it's got a curve, it's not flat. So you don't want to be doing this, because all you're going to do is sand out the middle section and end up with a bigger gap. So what we're going to do is just going to come down here, from here, top to bottom. So we're just going to look down it, and we know we've got a little bit of a step just up the top. So we're just going to very lightly come down, and you can see already we've pretty, just with a couple of paths, just trying to sand out between the top and the bottom. You can see there's a little one there, so we just, and if you've got the grey, or see, you can see the more shiny bit in the middle, that's not a problem. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to pop in with this again, and that's quite a coarse bit of sanding on there, and we can see we're perfect at the top. Actually, I don't think we're too far out top and bottom there once it is all in. Maybe a little one at the bottom, but to be honest, we had that on the other side. Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to repeat that on here. Just going to give a little sand, and just a little bit. And again, we're not trying to take out tons, we're just trying to improve it slightly. And it, to be honest, it's not tons of work needs to come out of this. It just looks like there's a little bit going on down in there. And the rest of that I think we do with filler. So we're making sure that's cleaned out. And then what we're going to do, we're going to come in here. So to start with, this is the quick set glue. We're just going to put a blob in here and a blob in here. Okay, and then we're just going to slide the tab in and slowly pushing together. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try and get it as nice as we can across the top. And we're just going to hold it for a second. And this won't be its final resting position, but hopefully it's not going to be too far out. Okay, so once that's in there, we can then just check our wing alignment. So we're using the canards as our area, and we're looking down on it, and we're making sure it's pretty much as square as possible. And you can see we've got a little bit of a gap down under there, but what we're going to do is just going to pop some glue, and you can see it disappearing, being drawn into the gap. And as soon as it looks a little bit wet, we can then just drag it around right the way through. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to let that dry. We have got a little bit of a gap under here. Okay, so we're just going to check our wing alignment again, so we're square. So we're looking at these canards at the front because we know they're square. We're just trying to line it up with the back section on there as well. And we don't look to be too far out. If anything, it looks like it's got a little bit of a drop. So we're just going to push it in now. Okay, doesn't look too bad. So we got this gap down here. Alright, so what we're going to do, just for the moment, we're going to take a little bit of glue and we're going to drop it in the top. And we're going to see how much we can weld up, and then that way how much filler we're going to need. So we're just taking some areas and we're going to let that draw in there and try and weld some of it together, but we're not going to try and fill it up with glue because that's just not going to work. Okay, but I can't pull that wing down now because we're going to end up with angles are going to be out and things like that. Alright, so that's that one in. Then we've got this one here, which is for that intake one. It fits in there, but it's not particularly perfect, and you might notice already we've popped in here with a little bit of filler just around this edge. This side, to be honest, isn't too bad. This side is a little bit bad. Okay, so what we'll do is, we've already got a bit in there, we're just going to test fit this one in, and we're going to pop it in, and it just seems to be a little bit, just a tiny bit raised of how this goes, so we're just going to test it in there, push it in, just needs a little bit of a wedge, but it's not too bad, but we have got a little step down on here, but for the moment what we're going to do again, plenty of glue, and we're just going to come in the corners, and this one up by the gun, making sure the capillary. Okay, so we're going to push it and pull it into position, and the thing is the gun goes slightly out of alignment when the rest of it is in alignment, if that makes sense. So you have to make the choice on if you're going to want to come in up here and do a little bit of filler work up here or underneath. Okay, and from my point of view I think it's going to be easier to do filler work underneath, so I've just pushed that up a little bit and trying to get a better location all in there. So we're flat at the front, we're nice and smooth here, but we've got a little tiny step under here. That will be easier to fill than the rest of it. Okay, so again we're just making sure we're in complete alignment as best as we can, and then once we're in there we're just going to come in with a little bit of extra glue and then down under here and then again over here. I'm just going to swipe it round, and then we're just going to hold it just to let this glue bite a bit, and again a little bit of brute force and ignorance just to push and pull and hold it all in can save you a little bit of work, because the weld action glue will take care of any little joins and again gets rid of any problems you might have. So we're just going to hold this right here for a moment. Now one of the drawbacks of this kit, unfortunately, it doesn't have FOD covers because there is nothing inside these intakes. So we might have to scratch build something a little bit later on just to take care of that. So we're just going to hold that just for a sec. Starting to come round, maybe needs a little bit more of a nudge, but that's pretty close. And as you can see, that's those intakes in, but unfortunately, as you can see, there's nothing to see in there. There's no first stage compressor or anything else like that. Okay, so perfect along the top, which is, to be honest, where everyone's going to see, but unfortunately we have got a gap underneath. So the way we're going to get around that, take a little bit of filler. So for this we're using perfect plastic putty. Haven't done this one for a while, so we thought we'd give it a whirl. Okay, now the great thing with this is it's water based, so you can clean it up really easy with water, and you can also thin it with water. So just a tiny little bit of water, to be honest that's probably too much, so we're just going to draw some of that away. Okay, just going to draw some of that water away, so we're left with a little bit because we want it to make it into a paste. Just going to grab a brush. Okay, so then what we can do, we can take this, and then with the water it will thin the putty. The great thing about this putty is it dries really, really quick. You know, within a couple of minutes this is workable, where if you were using an older fashioned putty, shall we say, such as, you know, thinned with lacquer thinners, stuff like that, although it will give you a better bite and it will work into the plastic and give you a stronger finish and everything else like that, it does do a little bit of damage and takes a little bit longer to dry. Okay, so we thin this down to a more of a thick paste rather than anything else. Okay, so again I'm just going to mix this all around. Okay, that's quite nice. And then what we can start to do, just do a little bit of filler work. So again, we're just going to pop this around, and we're just brushing it down into the the gap. It is going to need a little bit of pushing in. Okay, so we're just going to come along and say, just going to get that down and in. Now this is a lot bigger gap, to be honest, than I had on the other side, so we're just going to do a bigger filler job on this, and then we're just going to brush it right over. Remember, don't smooth it out totally until it's dry. Okay, so we're just going to put a lot of that in. And it may look a bit of a mess, but we have a trick up our sleeve for this. Again, just make sure it's nicely hidden down in there. Then we've got the same along here, so we're just going to put a little bit of putty just down in here. Same, to be honest, as we did with the other one. Okay, just down in there, and then obviously this little area just around the front with this seam. And again, probably overkill, but as we were saying, this needs to be perfect. So that's why we're going to fill absolutely everything. Okay, so that's all nice. Then again, we've got the seam line down here. You might notice just down in here, this is where we removed it from the sprue, and it's got quite a nasty little mark just there. So again, we're just going to pop a bit in there, a little bit there. The rest of it, I'm thinking, will probably not need filling too badly. Okay, and the last bit is just this bit up in here, and I'm hoping we've got enough filler just to get in that top bit. So we've got a little bit on the brush. Okay, and it is this area just at the top under here. Okay, so we've just got a little tiny gap there, so we're just going to put a good old blob just down in that one, and then we've got another little blob just up here at the back as well. So again, we're just going to come in there, smooth that over. Alright, I think that should do it. So what we're going to do, we're going to let that dry, see how that looks, and then we're going to come back and show you a little magic trick about removing it all. Okay, so the putty's been drying on here, and totally dry, no problem at all. Now, big thing with this, with all putties really, but specifically with this one, make sure it's totally dry. And when we mean that, when it's surface dried, that's one thing. When it's dried right inside the fill you want to do, okay? Because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to pull it out, because physically we're going to wash this stuff away. So all we've got here is normal water, to be honest, is distilled water. Okay, so we're just on a cotton bud, but to be honest it'll be fine with tap water as well. All we're going to do is wet it, and to start with nothing really happens, but what it is now, it's soaking into the actual filler itself, and then it's going to sort of moisten it up, and just like the clay wash type of technique, it will wipe away. So then all we do is wipe, and as you can see, it washes it physically away. Now the great thing about doing this technique, if you've got an area perhaps with lots of riveting or lots of specific details that you need to protect, then this way is actually very nice. Now you don't want to overdo it, because very quickly you can start pulling it out of the panel lines and the details you're trying to fill anyway. Okay, so what we're going to do is just rub across. Okay, we'll just come in with a clean, as you can see. Now, in different ones we've used techniques like using thinners. This is basically the same type of technique, okay? So once you've got a little bit out there, you can just wet it. And you're left with a very clean area, okay? So a couple of cotton buds later, okay, we just come up and we just wet this back area here, and we're just getting the details out of that entire section. Now the riveting detail may be a little bunged up, but the great thing about this is that it's not being sanded away. It's not like you've had to come in here and sand it all away or take it out. This is why it's specifically important to make sure that this is dried thoroughly, because otherwise if it's still wet down in the actual panel line that you're trying to fill, or the seam line or whatever it is, it's going to pull it clean out. So make sure this is totally dry. So it should be quite difficult to get off. You don't want this to be just wiping away with ease, otherwise it's sort of defeating the object of what you're doing. Okay, so you get a bit in there. Again, you can just wipe it away. And you can even just use a cloth once it's somewhat cleaned. Okay. And there we go. You can just literally pop through here. So we'll just do this little end area. And you just moisten it. The filler begins to soften slightly. And then you can just come in with a cloth and clean up. But just remember, you don't want to be cleaning over too much, because otherwise you're going to be wiping it away. And that is a very simple way of doing it. Now the trouble is the riveting detail is a little bit filled now, so you are going to have to go back in there and take care of that exactly the same. So that's how we're going to do that, and to be honest, it's how we'll do all the other areas. With the exception of this one up around the nose, we've got a little bit of a seam. You can see there's a little bit of a butt up there and all the rest of it. So to be honest, we're just coming in with a dual sander, and we're just going to pop this down the side. You might notice as well, we've already popped the nose on. So we're just going to cut down into that area until it's totally smoothed out. Okay, and you can see how we've got some areas done. Now in here there's a little bit of detail, but to be honest we're going to take it off because on this side it's pretty nasty. This side we've left it in there, but we're going to come in with a little bit of plasticard and we're going to replace it. Okay, so just take that clean off. Okay, I'm going to take those out and these other areas. Again, this is one of those areas you can't fudge it, you can't forget it, you can't ignore it. Switch over to the smooth, soft side of the sponge, and that stops you getting a flat spot, and it helps conform to the surface. And it's not going to cause too much damage. Don't forget, you're not pushing down hard on this. You really, really want the sander to do all the work. Okay, the last bit's just going now. Fan those bits away. Everything's in. I'm happy. And then back with the sponge. The sponge takes out the scratches. Also, it rounds it back off, so it's all nice. Okay, once you get it down there, you're in there like that. You can come along with our green and white. Okay, and we're just going to go along with the green. The green will then smooth it all out. It'll seam check. It'll make sure you're happy with all your lines, because it will show up like a barn door, anything that's wrong. Okay, once you've done that, that gives you sort of flat plastic, and then we're just going to go to the white side, and this is so you can check it. This will polish the plastic and show up any imperfections you might have. Okay, and then we're just going to give this a quick rub round. And there we go. So now you can rock it back and forth, and you can see if you can physically see any of those details. And you might notice we haven't taken out the panel lines either. They are still in there. Okay, so that's not a problem at all with that. So you can have a good look round and just see exactly what you've got. And that is it. Simple as. So down on here, you can see we've got the white down there. We've done exactly the same on this side to clean that up, and then again exactly the same on there. So what we're going to do, just finish off cleaning up those sanding areas, get those jobs all done like that. And as you can see, we are really coming together very, very fast. We've got a great looking Rafale here. So we've put in the little rear engine exhaust just between the splitter there. Obviously the nose has gone on as well, because that might need a little bit of blending in. To be honest, it's just going to need a very light sand and we'd be good to go there. So we're going to finish off getting those cleaned up, sanded down, and then next up we're going to look at re-riveting, re-scribing. We'll show popping those details in, and then we can think about really bringing it all together then, getting the canopy masked up, getting the canopy fitted on temporarily for the moment, so that's all in place, and then we can think about paint. Okay, so fillet all dried and obviously all sanded back, looking nicely. So down under here, as you can see, we've got that lovely line in. You can see this side wasn't too bad. This one needed a little bit more work down in there. And generally just feeling it with your finger, you can feel no lumps, bumps or nasty bits or anything else down in there. But you might want to come in with a light sanding sponge, things like that. Obviously, we got this one here, a slightly old, more warm one, but you can just give it a little light rub just to make sure everything's nice and blended. And when you're doing any type of sanding work, remember, don't step over it, because all you're going to do is make a chisel there. Keep the sponge on there so it's always working over the surface and rubbing down evenly instead of sort of charging back and forth and things like that. Okay, and then again you can have a nice feel. And like we said before, you can always come in with a green and white polisher. Okay, and this will just get rid of any scratches or any other problems, just like over this, and then flip over to the white side, and you can see we can gloss up under here really nicely, and in that way you can have a proper shiny look at it. Because it's got that glossed edge, as we know you can't hide anything in gloss. You can probably see that's really very nice in there. Same with all the other areas as well. We've been round, had a polish and a shape, and just to make sure. And some things, obviously, we've got a little bit of filler still in there, and that's what we're talking about, and it actually looks pretty nice, no problem. We have put the nose on, and you notice we've got a little step running all the way round in here. But to be honest, the nose does have a nose break, and I've got a plan to take care of that in a moment. We're actually going to cut a new line into that. So all in all, we're very happy, but what we've got to do is obviously clean out a lot of this damage that we've caused. It's not so much damage, it's just a little bit of filler in there and things like that. So what you can do, you can take your panel line cutter, like your Tamiya P cutter type thing, or any type of rescribing tool or anything else like that, and what you can do is just lay it in to the holes and just gently give it a rub round, just to clean out the filler, you know, because obviously it has filled it. Might be better with something a little bit bigger actually. So we're just going to pop that in just to rescribe in those lines that we may have inadvertently filled up or damaged or anything. Then it is just a case of following what's already there. No problems at all. Just cleaning them out and putting them all back in. Remembering not to overdo anywhere too much. All of those, so they're all cleaned out. And then the same where anywhere else, and you might have done that thing of inadvertently again just taking out too much detail around. That's an easy fix. We can just come in and just sharpen up and crisp up all these little slightly damaged panel lines. Like under here, for instance, we have pretty much taken out that panel line, so it's a little bit too faint and I don't really want to risk it. So you can try the push technique, which basically just pushes that panel line, and then you can draw back like that just to clean it out, and it's fine. But some of these, obviously this big white guy down in here, we need to take that one clean out. Okay, again, you can come in here with a little bit of, like a toothbrush is another easy fix just to get filler dust out. But the thing is, when you've actually physically got dried filler in there, you need a little bit more. Okay, so it's a little bit of a long, laborious job doing all this, and that's what you don't want to do. I just slipped because it's absolutely chocker rock hard. I thought it was just soft dust, so that's why sometimes it's better to take your time and use a guide just to come around in there. The other thing as well, when you get your little curves and things, you can actually use a needle type device just to come around some of these curves, just to clean them out, everything. And then the long laborious job of re-putting in the riveting. So this riveting dust, it should crack, but what we've got to do is put these larger rivets in. So we're just popping along here with the tool, just pushing one at a time. Long laborious job. So what I highly recommend is to literally just do each panel at a time. That way you won't get lost and you should be all okay. So we're just going to pop round everywhere just like this. Again, it's one of those things, it's a long job but well worth it once it's all done. And again, we've got a little bit of filler going down in this panel in here and in this one, so we're just hopefully going to clean those out. And then again, next row. But the thing is, if these were filled, I don't think there would be enough depth in them to hold a wash. So this way we've got no problem popping one down after the other right the way around. Okay, so we just finish off this panel so I know where I'm at. And then same thing again, if you're a little bit worried about roughness, you can just go over this a little bit extra thin, just to deburr or get rid of the sharp edge or the raised edge that you might have caused doing that. Okay, so that's those on. So same thing right the way under here, completely, both sides are going to need doing. Clean up all this round here as well, all the riveting, everything else, okay, right the way through. And then we're over to this side where we've got panel lines which are going to go right the way round that we've actually taken out. Now there's not tons, and you could just come in with, if you wanted to, you can hold down your tape. You can come in as well with a little bit of Dymo tape if you wanted to play it a little bit safer. So all you're going to do is find the original panel line, and it's there to there. Got a little bit of tack left on this guy. Okay, just pop it in, and then you come in with your favourite scribing tool, whichever one you want to use. Okay, and then we're just going to literally pop it in. Very lightly. Stick the panel lines back in just like that, and then again you can go over them with a little bit of extra thin, or you can just sand them flat and then just rescribe again, just come over it and scribe those in. The other way of course you can do it is with a little bit of a razor saw on curved edges. So this little guy down in here, what you can actually do is pop the razor saw in the trench, and then you're just going to use a dragging motion and pulling it backwards. You can actually put in the lines. Okay, now this is okay as long as you've got something to as a guide to go to and from. Okay, so I'm just trying to work that out. Needs to be on there, and again just slightly overshot, but because this blade's got a slight curve on it as well, it's quite easy just to pop in there just like that. And then obviously we've got another two just here, and then again what I'll do is I'll come in with a little bit of extra thin just to take care of these. And that line I think I was off slightly, so what I'm going to do is okay, and that is literally it. I've got to do a few more, but it's easy on the curves. The nose, to be honest, I will use this same tool, and then all we're going to do is rock this right the way round the nose. As you can see, you just place this in, and we're just dragging it right the way round, and then that way it's going to put in a nice clean line around that entire nose. Okay, so we've got to do just a touch around the top, and then hopefully what it does, it gives you a fake where the joint is, because you can't actually now see where that joint is, and by the time we've got a wash in there, the various other things to it, it should be absolutely fine. So this guy on this side, last one, is going to come from the edge, and then again just dragging, and then getting near the tip, and then it looks like this one actually stops pretty much on there, but this guy definitely is going to go all the way. And again we're just pulling that all that way round the edge. Again, this is quite nice, you can control it. I tend to hold my fingers each side of it, and then again just down in there. Then we got these two, these just make it a little bit easier, just go around curves. And then obviously you can come in from the bottom, so you can push. Don't forget, you don't have to pull because you're using a saw. Both ways. And there we go, we've put all of those back in just like that. And then again, down here on the side, normal rescribing techniques just around those, just to clean them out, just to put all the ones back in. So if you want to, you can grab your P cutter or whatever you're going to do, just to go down onto there, and with all the others. And this little guy we've overshot just down on there. So what we'll do is we'll come in with a skinny stick, I think, in a moment, and we'll just simply sand that slight overshoot just out. Okay, but all of these again, just get a light sand. Just a light one, just so we can see. A little bit of tidy up on that one. All the way. And there we go, that's how we go about tidying all these up, because obviously we've got lots of noticeable stuff all on these little lines. And then the last one really is just to cheat this in. So we're assuming there is a panel line that's actually going to run right the way around both of these. So we're just going to come in there. We've got the little trumpeter cutter, and again letting the tool do the work. We're not particularly pulling or pushing. That puts a panel line all in there, and then this little guy just round on the front one here as well. Nice and gently over the gun, and then right round. Okay, just completes those, and then what we do, zip around with those, all the others, clean them up, get rid of all the sort of, you know, dust out of everywhere, the debris and everything else. And then once you're happy with it, what we can actually do is then think about getting into primer, rechecking all these lines. Don't forget, even in primer, you can go back, you can redo it. In theory, you can even do it in the paint job, but we just want to make sure they're all tight with no problems at all. So anyway, that's looking really, really nice. We'll carry on with that.